Am I recording? Okay. All right, hi everybody. I am doing wheelchair curling, excuse me. And yeah. Oh, So a little bit history. It was created in Europe in the late 1900s and started and then it started to be played in North America around the early 2000s. And then it started in the Paralympics in 2006, the Winter Paralympics 2006. For classification for the sport. So it's even though it is played in wheelchairs, you do not have to be stand like you don't have to be permanently in a wheelchair, but you do have to play the sport in a wheelchair, and you need to have some sort of impairment. So it would be impaired muscle power for the classification would be impaired muscle power, impaired passive range of mo movement, hypertonia, limb deficiency, and ataxia. So you don't have to be like only be able to move in a wheelchair. Like if you walk, but you just like if you're able to walk, that's fine. But you when you're playing sport, you do have to be in the wheelchair. So here are some main rules for it. So no sweeping. So there's no sweeping at all, as in like in regular curling, because it's still because of the wheelchair and being able to move, it would get too clunky. So they got rid. So they just never had the sweeping. And then, like I said in the previous slide, you must be in a wheelchair at all times. Even if you are able to walk, you still must be in a wheelchair. The chair must be stationary when you're throwing the ball or pushing it, or the rock, excuse me. And then both men and women have to be play on the same team. There aren't like men and women teams. They both play on the same team. And it can be thrown by hand or delivery stick. So you either push with your hand or you have to use the delivery stick, which I will get into in this slide. So delivery stick is that top picture right there. So then as you see, it goes onto the handle or clatches onto the handle of the stone, and then they're able to it can like the stick can extend out, and they use to push it, and you then it releases. So then they can. It's easier to it's easier for some to use the stick instead of the hand. They recommend you using the stick, so you can use your hand, but it get easier. It's an extension of your arm, which is nice. And then the stone or rock, which is the bottom left picture, which is the rock made of granite. It slides on the rock on the ice where you push it to aim for the target on the ground. And then a wheelchair. Then you need a wheelchair. But the good thing is you don't need it's not like you need a high tech fancy wheelchair that needs certain modifications for. You can just use a regular wheelchair that you use. So that's why it's nice and opening for people because you don't need to have a high-end wheelchair or a specific wheelchair. You just use a regular one. So for scoring is pretty simple. Is you just have to get the closer. So there are two out of the two teams. You want to be closest to the white circle in the middle. So I put up this graph. So for example, in the first area or the first circle, the red is on the white, so then the red will score 1 point. And then the second one, you see there are three yellows on that blue, with one of the yellows being on the center circle, so then that would be 3 points. And then for this one, there are two things in the stones in the middle, one yellow, one red. But since red is closer to that white in the middle, white circle in the middle, that means they get the points. And then if no one gets anywhere close to it, like in the last picture, then it's a no score or a blank end. So for my Paralympian, I chose Steve Empt. He plays for Team USA. He played basketball at University of Kentucky or UConn, but after he got in a car accident around the age of 25, which left him paralyzed from the waist down. So he began coaching after that, and then after that, he wanted to find his passion for sports because he loves sports. He played throughout his entire life. So that's where he got into curling. And then after playing for the first two, playing two championships or Paralympics, excuse me. And then he began to travel the world being a motivational speaker while training for this upcoming Paralympics, excuse me. So yeah, he tells the story how he became from the tribulation and just everything he had to go through to make it or to get through the accident, and now he's happier than he's ever been now, and he loves curling, and he just fell in love with the sport. So for my quick reflection, so the reason I chose curling because I've never played any winter type sports. Like I know what sledding is, like six outside of sledding, but that's not really a sport. But I've only played or I haven't done any type of winter sport like that. So that's why when I was going through the option, I wanted to choose something from there. And wheelchair curling was interesting to me because I knew of the sport curling, but I didn't know how it would like how they can replicate it to being in a wheelchair or to people playing in wheelchairs. So that's why I chose the wheelchair curling. And the reason why I chose Steve's is his just I fell in love with his story and his the journey just to getting from everything he had to go through to ending up like getting to where he is now is just extraordinary to me. And it was just crazy. And the sorry. I did why can't I Oh yeah, sorry. What I learned from it is just the complexity of just how complex the sport is. Because I used to think it was just you can just push the ice down, do a little sweeping, and then it's there, and then that's it. But there's so much strategy that goes into it, the precision, especially since there's no sweeping, the precision it takes to push it down the to when you're pushing the stone down to get it to like the right area, and then having to aim push other people's stones out of the way. It's just all different there's different strategies that you have to take. It's not just simply just pushing the stone down, and aiming for the middle like I thought it was. How I think I can use this sport for a future job is that or teaching is that it just introduces a new sport, not just curling, but obviously wheelchair curling as well. Because not many people they might know of curling or not know it at all. So I feel like this would be a good sport to kind of get people into looking more into other winter sports outside of the main snowboarding and hockey. So I think this would be a nice way and inclusion. If I'm not even having to do obviously a wheelchair, but you can do a variation maybe on scooters instead of doing on scooters and teaching the sport that way. So if someone does have is in a wheelchair in my class, they can still participate while also learn maybe thinking trying maybe they want to do the sport outside of school because they fell in love with it. So yeah, that's what I would do if I had an opportunity and a job to use this sport. And here are all my references.